The witch, the eternal archetype and the mirror of civilization, the last light of a weary sun bleeds across the horizon, painting the clouds in shades of bruised purple and ash gray. Below, in the quiet valley, a village settles into the uneasy dusk. The air is dense, heavy with the smell of damp earth, the woods, and a new scent that has crept in over the past few weeks, the stench of fear. It clings to the mud and the whitewashed walls of the cottages, and it lingers in the silence that has replaced the evening laughter of children. Something is fundamentally broken. You can see it in the fields where the grain stands stunted and blighted, a dark whisper of rot spreading through the stalks. You can feel it in the unnatural stillness of the livestock, their eyes wide and nervous in the gloom. And you can hear it in the shallow, rattling breath of a child in a small cottage, a scorching fever behind his eyes that no soothing potion can abate, no prayer can quench. The people gather in small, hushed clusters, their faces etched with the harsh lines of a life lived on the edge of survival. They have exhausted all they know to do. They have prayed to the saints. They have left offerings upon the ancient stones. They have sought the counsel of the village elder. But the sickness deepens, the crops wither, and the cow, once the pride of the village, now gives only thin, bluish milk. The order of the world is slipping out of balance, and they are helpless to stop it. The cry of the scapegoat. In this profound abyss of helplessness, where faith has failed and reason offers no answers, the eyes of the villagers begin to drift. They look past the warmth of their own hearths, away from the supposed sanctity of the small church, and out toward the edge of the community. They contemplate the deep, dark woods, a place of ancient secrets and lingering shadows. And their gaze comes to rest on a single, solitary cottage, a plume of smoke curling from its chimney like a question mark against the darkening sky. It is here, in the shared, fearful glance of a community pushed to its breaking point, that a single poisonous word takes root in the silence. It is a word spoken in a whisper, a venomous seed of an idea that once planted will grow into a terrible and unshakable certainty. Witchcraft. The word is not yet an accusation. It is a diagnosis. It is the answer to the unanswerable why. Why did the fever take this child and not another? Why did the blight settle upon this field? Why did the cow's milk run dry? In a cosmos governed by invisible forces and inexplicable cruelties, the conceptualization of the witch is a vital piece of human technology. It provides a face to formless dread, a motive to the random malice of fate. It transforms a random tragedy that cannot be fought into a deliberate attack by an enemy that can be found, confronted, and destroyed. But who is this adversary? Who is this figure that has haunted humanity for millennia, a shadow lurking at the edge of every culture? Is she the grotesque, cackling hag of the fairy tales with a hooked nose and a bubbling cauldron? Is she a powerful, seductive enchantress capable of bending kings and heroes to her will? Or is she, perhaps, a primordial goddess of magic and fate, the keeper of the universe's most profound secrets? Or is she, in her simplest form, merely a woman, an outcast, a healer, a victim of a world that fears her wisdom or her independence? The truth is that she is all of these things and none of them. The witch is not a single, stable entity. She is a living archetype, an idea so powerful that it has been endlessly reshaped by the societies that tell her story. Her countenance changes with the anxieties of the age. In one century, she is worshipped as a source of life and wisdom. In another, she is hunted as a servant of absolute evil. She is a monster and a deity, a poisoner and a healer, a terrifying fiend and a bringer of gifts. To unravel her mystery, we must become travelers in time and spirit. The divine architects of the archetype. Our inquiry begins not in a courtroom or at a stake, but in an older, wilder time, a time before the devil had a name, but when the goddesses of magic certainly did. Before the ecclesiastical court, before the pyre, and even before the devil himself was given the starring role in humanity's nightmares, there was a different kind of magic. In this pre-Christian world, magic was not a sin whispered in the dark. It was a fundamental force of nature, as real and as present as the wind, the tides, and the turning of the seasons. The animistic cosmos was not a dead stage for human dramas, but a living, breathing entity, a world woven from spirit where every river had a voice, every mountain held a memory, and every forest was a sacred temple pulsing with energy, both life-giving and terrifying. In this setting, the most mysterious powers were often personified in female figures. They were not the comical crones of later folklore, but great and terrible goddesses, primal beings who held dominion over the most profound mysteries of existence: birth and death, fate and prophecy, the untamed wilderness, and the secret knowledge of the earth. They were the original keepers of magic, the mistresses of the veil between worlds, and it is from the distorted echoes of their power that the first true face of the witch begins to emerge. Hecate, the triple goddess of the threshold. To find her, we must journey to the places where boundaries are thinnest, to a lonely crossroads at midnight, where a choice can alter a life forever. Here, in the dead of the Grecian night, under a sliver of a moon that offers no comfort, we meet the first of these primordial powers, Hecate. She appears, not as one, but as three forms triformis, a triple-bodied goddess standing back to back, her gaze fixed on all possible paths at once. In her hands, she holds the symbols of her domain, twin torches that cast an eerie, dancing light, not to banish the darkness, but to illuminate its secrets, and a set of keys. For she is the gatekeeper, Kleiophoros, the one who can unlock the hidden paths between the world of the living and the shadowy realm of the dead. Hecate is a liminal deity, a goddess of the in-between. She presides over doorways, gates, and these lonely crossroads, all points of transition and uncertainty where the veil between realities is stretched thin. For the ancient Greeks, Hecate was a figure of profound awe and dread, a Titan's daughter so ancient and powerful that even Zeus showed her reverence, granting her dominion over the earth, the sea, and the sky. But for the common person, her power was most keenly felt in the darkness. She was the queen of the night, who moved in the margins of the world, often accompanied by a restless train of ghosts, the spirits of the unburied, those who died by violence. This role as a guide between worlds made her the natural patroness of all those who sought to do the same: the sorcerers, the necromancers, and the witches. In classical literature, the great enchantresses of myth, like Medea and Circe, would call upon Hecate's name in their most potent rites, seeking her aid in brewing potions and casting spells. She was the divine source of their magical knowledge. Hecate, therefore, is our first glimpse of the witch as a divine being, not a malevolent monster to be hunted, but a fundamental cosmic power that must be understood and respected. The Morrigan, phantom queen of the battle. From the quiet, magical thresholds of Greece, our journey takes us north to the windswept, blood-soaked shores of ancient Ireland. Here, in the world of Celtic myth, the divine feminine takes on a far more martial and terrifying form. She is not a silent guide in the darkness, but the screaming fury of the battle itself. She is the goddess of war, of fate, and of sovereignty, a phantom queen Morrigan, who delights in the chaos of conflict. Like Hecate, she is often conceived as a triple goddess, a trinity of powerful sisters, sometimes Morrigan, Machu, and Bab, who embody the full horrific spectrum of war. To see her is an omen, a sign that fate has marked you. Warriors spoke in hushed tones of the washer at the ford, Bab, the grim apparition of an old woman seen before a battle, washing the bloody armor and clothes of those who were destined to die. To see your own gear in her hands was to receive your own death sentence, a chilling prophecy written in water and blood. The Morrigan is more than just a herald of doom. She is the embodiment of the land's sovereignty. In Irish myth, a king could not rule without the blessing of the land, which was personified by the goddess. She is the one who grants victory. She flies over the battlefield as a screeching black crow, inspiring a divine battle frenzy, Ferg, in her chosen warriors and striking terror into the hearts of their foes. She is the wild, chaotic, and exhilarating force of war itself, the power that can turn the tide of history. These primordial figures teach us a vital truth. Before the witch was a heretic destined for the pyre, she was a goddess to be feared and revered, an essential part of the cosmic order. But as the empires of antiquity rose, and the world became more ordered and patriarchal, these wild goddesses were pushed to the margins, and their magic became an object not of awe, but of profound suspicion. The scorned sorceress, the power of human passion. As the old gods retreated into the mists of memory, their power did not vanish. It was fractured and demoted. In the rising empires of Greece and Rome, a new world was being forged, a world of cities, laws, philosophy, and a rigid social order that prized reason over revelation. In such a context, magic did not disappear, but it became suspect. The grand cosmic power of a goddess could now be wielded by mortals, often for purposes that were selfish and deeply unsettling to the male status quo. The witch was no longer a divine force, but a human practitioner to be wary of. Circe, the foreign seductress, and the test of control. Our journey takes us to the remote, mist-shrouded island of Aia, a place that exists on the very edge of the Greek imagination. Here, in a stone hall surrounded by a silent forest, reigns an unsettling peace. Great wolves and lions roam the grounds like docile hounds, fawning at the feet of strangers with an unsettlingly human intelligence in their eyes. This is the first sign that the laws of nature have been suspended. This is the domain of Circe, Kirk. When the weary, shipwrecked sailors of Odysseus's crew stumble upon her dwelling, they find not a monster, but a vision of divine beauty. Circe sits at her great loom, her voice a captivating melody. She welcomes the men with a radiant smile and disarming grace, laying out a lavish feast of cheese, barley, and honeyed wine. For the starving men, it is a miracle, a paradise found. But the moment the last man drains his cup, she rises. With a flick of her slender wand and a murmured incantation, paradise turns into a nightmare of body horror. The men shrink and twist, their skin hardens and sprouts coarse bristles, their faces elongate into snouts. Where proud Greek warriors once stood, a herd of terrified swine scrambles and squeals on the floor. This is her signature magic. She does not kill men, but unmasks them, revealing the animal nature she believes lurks beneath the surface of their civility. Circe is the archetypal foreign enchantress, a symbol of everything the Greeks both feared and desired in the unknown world. She is the test of a man's self-control, a dangerous temptation who can turn the unwary into beasts. But she is also a keeper of profound wisdom, a teacher who, once her respect is earned, becomes an invaluable ally. Medea, the scorned witch and the calculus of revenge. If Circe's magic was a test of character, the magic of our next figure is a weapon of raw human passion. We travel even further east, to the kingdom of Colchis, on the dark shores of the Black Sea. Here we meet a woman whose name would become a byword for a terrifying, all-consuming revenge, Medea Mediae. She is a princess, a priestess of Hecate, and the most infamous sorceress in all of Greek mythology. Overcome by a divinely inspired love for the handsome hero Jason, she makes the fateful choice to betray her father and her homeland to help him steal the Golden Fleece. Her cruelty is absolute. She enchants the guardian dragon, uses trickery to cause the Earthborn warriors to slay one another, and even dismembers her own young brother, Absyrtus, to delay her father's pursuing fleet. Years later, when Jason betrays her to marry a local princess, Medea's immense love curdles into an equally immense hatred. Her revenge is a masterpiece of meticulous cruelty. She sends the new bride a wedding gift, a poisoned golden robe and coronet, which bursts into a lethal, magical fire. But this is not enough to inflict the deepest wound. To destroy Jason's past, present, and future, she commits the ultimate act of maternal horror. She takes the lives of their 2 young sons. She escapes mortal justice in a dragon-drawn chariot, sent by her grandfather, the sun god Helios. Medea is the ultimate barbarian woman for the Greeks, passionate, disloyal, and possessed of a dark, terrifying power. She symbolized the destructive force of an emotion, whether love or hate, allowed to run unchecked. She is the witch as an agent of personal grievance, whose magic is a direct extension of her own tormented heart. The folkloric witch, the wisdom of the margins. As the great empires of the classical world crumbled, their gods and monsters scattered, finding new homes in the whispered stories around a winter fire, in the folk beliefs of rural villages, and in the deep, dark forests of the continent. Here, the witch was no longer a distant mythological figure, but something far more immediate and personal, a spirit in your house, or a terrifying power that lived just beyond the last flickering lantern of the village. This is the age of the folkloric witch, a creature of profound ambiguity, a source of both supernatural terror and hard-won wisdom. Baba Yaga, the ambivalent grandmother of the woods. Our initial stop is a place of primal strangeness, a vast, ancient birch forest in the heart of the Slavic world. The sunlight struggles to reach the forest floor, and the silence feels like a physical presence. It is here, on the border between our world and the other, that you find her domain. But first, you find her house, a small, crude log cabin perched precariously upon a pair of giant, scaly chicken legs. The house can walk, run, and sometimes spin in a dizzying circle. It is surrounded by a fence made of human bones, whose posts are topped with skulls that glow with an eerie internal fire. The mistress of this impossible home is Baba Yaga. She is a monster who sharpens her iron teeth and eats lost children. But she is also a wise woman who offers the magical gifts that can save a kingdom. She flies through the sky not on a broomstick, but in a giant mortar, using the pestle as a rudder and sweeping away her tracks from the air itself with a silver birch broom. Her first instinct is to roast visitors for supper, yet Baba Yaga is capricious. Her cruelty is a test. If the guest is cowardly or disrespectful, she will gleefully shove them into her oven. But if they show courage and a clever mind, her demeanor can change entirely. She will set them a series of impossible tasks, trials of worthiness. For the hero who endures, the monstrous cannibal transforms into a powerful benefactor. Baba Yaga is the perfect embodiment of the folkloric witch as a threshold guardian. Her hut stands on the literal and symbolic border between the world of the living and the otherworldly land of the dead. She is the ancient, ambiguous grandmother of the woods, a force of nature that is both nurturing and cruel. She is not good or evil. She is a primal power, as neutral and dangerous as the wilderness itself. La Befana, the witch of cleansing and hope. From the terrifying and magical forests of Russia, our journey takes us to a much more comforting and domestic setting, an Italian cottage on a cold winter's night. Children are tucked into their beds, dreaming of gifts. 12 days after Christmas, on the eve of Epiphany, they know that another kind of witch will be taking to the skies. She is not a fearsome ogress, but a beloved, dusty, and generous old woman, La Befana. She is envisioned as a crone riding a broomstick, but her appearance is more grandmotherly than fearsome. While others sleep, she slides down their chimneys, filling stockings with sweets and small toys for the children who have been good. But for those who have misbehaved, she leaves a gentle chastisement, a lump of black coal, which is often just black sugar candy. La Befana is a remarkable example of how a culture can completely reframe the witch archetype. She has all the classic trappings: the broomstick, the crone's-like appearance, the nocturnal flight. But her spirit is one of pure benevolence. She is a powerful symbol of generosity, hope, and renewal. Her broom is not a tool of dark magic, but of cleansing, symbolically sweeping away the troubles of the old year to make way for the new. She teaches us that the witch is not always a figure to be feared. Sometimes, she is a kindly magical grandmother, a reminder that the most profound magic can often be found in a simple act of generosity. The pact-making heretic, the climax of fear. The Atlantic was a dark ocean of forgetting, separating the old world from the new. The people who crossed it, the Puritans, the dissenters, sought to leave behind the hierarchies of Europe, but they could not leave behind their ghosts. They carried their folklore with them, and in the strange, silent wilderness of America, these old stories would mutate. The Salem witch trials, 1692. In the late 17th century, the witch archetype reached its most lethal and specific form in the New World. It was no longer a goddess of fate or a folkloric guardian of the forest, but the pact-making heretic, the literal servant of the devil. The Salem witch trials in Massachusetts became the terrifying epicenter of this shift. Here, a confluence of factors, political instability, severe religious paranoia, Puritanism, and the anxieties of a harsh frontier life, created a crucible for mass hysteria. The Puritan worldview was one of profound duality, God versus the devil. In this system, magic could not be a neutral force of nature, as it was for Hecate or Baba Yaga. It was absolute evil, derived solely from a contract with Satan. The witch was no longer feared for her power over crops. She was feared because she was an internal enemy who had sworn allegiance to the colony's greatest spiritual foe. The accusations, often spurred by a group of young women, rapidly escalated from minor scolding to formal capital crimes. The evidence was primarily spectral evidence, claims that the accused witch's spirit was tormenting the afflicted, visible only to the victims. This made the defense impossible, as the devil, it was argued, could assume the form of an innocent person. The system was designed to find guilt, not truth. The trials, which led to the hanging of 20 people and the deaths of several others, represent the ultimate tragedy of the witch archetype. The witch here was not a symbol of power, but a scapegoat for social and religious dysfunction. The fear of the untamed wilderness, the devil's domain, merged with the fear of uncontrolled female influence, resulting in a state-sanctioned extermination of the perceived spiritual enemy. Salem cemented the image of the witch as the ultimate traitor to both God and the community, a final, catastrophic transformation of the archetype from a divine force into a moral and legal abomination. Conclusion: the dark mirror of humanity. Through all these stories, a profound truth emerges. The witch is not one thing, but a multitude. She is an endlessly flexible archetype into which humanity has poured its oldest and most persistent anxieties. Her face is a mirror, and in its dark, reflective surface, each culture has seen the monster it needs and, sometimes, the monster it deserves. The witch serves a vital, though terrifying, social function. She is a diagnosis for the inexplicable. Before the science of germ theory, she was the blight on the crops and the fever in the child. Before psychology, she was the corrosive power of family trauma and unresolved grief. She is the ultimate scapegoat, the tangible enemy who can be blamed, hunted, and destroyed, providing a cathartic release for a community's fear. She is a social warning. Her legend is a coded message about the dangers of female independence, of secret knowledge, and of living outside the boundaries of established patriarchal and religious order. The witch hunt may be over, but the witch herself has not vanished. She has proven to be more resilient than her hunters. She has been transformed from a figure of terror into a symbol of empowerment, from a heretic into a feminist icon. She is the eternal outsider, the woman who refuses to be silenced. In the end, the story of the witch is not truly about magic. It is about power. The power of nature over civilization, the power of the unknown over the known. And perhaps her most enduring power is her ability to hold up that dark mirror and force us to look. She reminds us that in every society and in every heart, there is a wilderness that cannot be entirely tamed, a magic that cannot be completely explained, and a darkness that is necessary to give our own light meaning.